So once more, in evaluating this, this becomes e to the negative 4 over 2. Why negative 4? Why not a negative of a negative? Because you have to exponentiate before you multiply. And this negative out here is like a multiplication by negative 1. Okay? So this negative is part of what you're squaring. And of course, when you square negative 2, you get 4. This negative is still out there waiting to be applied. So then this gives you e to the negative 2, which I told you is about 0.135. Okay? Now if you do negative 1, well, that's squaring the negative 1 is going to give you 1 negative of that. You're going to get e to the negative 1/2, right? So that's going to be 0.6. Now, you can mess around. You can conclude that, well, to get the e to the negative 1, z would have to be the square root of 2 or negative square root of 2. And if you did that, that's great, but you don't really need it. But it's a good thing to have. Okay, so if you have that, okay, but I'm not going to mention it other than to say if you did that, very good. Okay? Well, now we can make our graph, right? Mm-hmm. So, what do we have? We got 1 here, we got negative 1 here. So over here, we have, well, let's just do it like this. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 trapezoids between negative 2 and 2. Okay? Now, the graph does go on, but by the time you get out to 3, it's getting really close to the x-axis, okay? And we can deal with negative 3, and we will with Excel. But right now, let's just approximate the area of this by trapezoids, right? Mm-hmm. So we divide this into 3 trapezoids. We got this one, we got this one, and we notice that this trapezoid goes a little under the curve, this trapezoid is a little over the curve.
Yeah.
So, you know, they don't exactly, you know, the trapezoids differ from the actual area under the curve by different amounts, but one of them is more, one of them is less, so we expect to get a pretty good approximation. Okay? So now what do we have? Well, now if we draw the trapezoids, and I'll draw them a little bigger so I can label them. And I'm drawing this a little higher than it really is, and this a little lower, but this is 0.6, this is 0.135, and this is 1. So that's not drawn very well, but, and neither is this, okay? So you could come up with a better drawing, because obviously 0.6 is more than 1/2 of 1, so this should be quite a bit higher. And 0.135 is probably somewhat less than that. Still, that serves, okay?
Yeah.
So quickly, tell me what those areas are. And we're really mostly interested in the areas. Sometimes the slope is important if we're trying to do some interpolation and things, but the area is the key.